On a dreary November morning in the year 1887, Detective Lopez entered my modest study on Prince's Lane with a heavy step. He looked as if he had barely slept through the night. His coat was still damp from the fog. The brim of his hat dripped slowly. "Clark, I need your help," he said. "A new case, one like I haven't seen in years." I looked up. In his eyes lay a determination and a glimmer of fear. "What is it about?" I asked. "In the southern part of the county, where the moor swallows the land, a body has been found. No name, no luggage, just a golden comb shaped like a lily." "A woman?" I guessed. "Possibly. The clothing was too soaked to tell. But that's not what disturbs me. In the hair of the deceased, there were traces of salt and a single grain of sand, greenish, like glass." "Sea glass?" "Exactly. And now imagine, the moor lies over 100 miles from the nearest coast." We traveled to the crime scene that very day. The moor was just as I had expected: cold, gray, and relentlessly silent. The coast of London seemed only a distant dream. Nothing but rotting fog and the occasional screech of a raven broke the ghostly stillness. In the small village of Elmridge, we met Miss Abernathy, the steward's daughter. She spoke softly. The dead woman. She was beautiful despite everything. I saw her before the doctor arrived. Miss Abernathy hesitated. Her fingers toyed with the locket around her neck. Lopez asked her, "Miss Abernathy, have you seen this woman before?" "No, and yet she seems oddly familiar. Perhaps from a dream, or an old portrait." While we were recording her statement, something caught Lopez's eye. He asked, "This necklace, Miss Abernathy, the pendant, is it sea glass?" Her gaze froze. She turned abruptly and left the room. We decided to stay in the village. The inn, the Grey Heron, was simple but clean. The innkeepers were chatty and full of hints. The landlady said, "They say the moor has its moods. It only takes those it chooses." That woman, she was a stranger, and the moor doesn't return strangers. That same evening, we learned from the village priest that there had been another unsolved disappearance of a young woman 20 years ago. Her name was Annabel Grant. She was the daughter of a sailor who later turned up dead in the Thames under mysterious circumstances. Annabel, too, had once been found with a golden comb. The following night, we wandered the shore of the moor. There, we found a half-sunken boat, weathered with a name etched into its side: Violetta. Lopez became thoughtful. Violetta, that was the name on the envelope. I remember now. The scent of perfume. The word flee. It was her handwriting. We contacted the maritime authorities in Hastings. 2 years earlier, a young woman named Violetta Roseman had been reported missing, presumed dead but never found. She had worked for a committee investigating art forgeries. The next morning, we received a letter, sealed with green wax, an invitation to a ball at the Abernathy estate. "A trap, or an opportunity," said Lopez. He disguised himself as a wealthy jeweler from Paris, with monocle, fur collar, and a suitcase full of fake diamonds. I accompanied him as his assistant. The estate was magnificent but weathered. Dark paintings in heavy frames, a strangely sweet scent in the parlor. The guests were silent, like shadows. Miss Abernathy approached us. Her gaze seemed more alert than before, more alert than it ought to be. "Monsieur Delacroix, how charming. You appreciate jewelry?" "More than that, mademoiselle. I see the truth in every gem and every lie in the eyes of its wearer," Lopez replied. The ball was strangely cold. Neither music nor dance could lift the mood. I followed one of the guests out onto the balcony and overheard him speaking on the telephone with an unknown contact. The name Clarice was mentioned. In a secluded parlor, away from the festivities, a private conversation took place. "Miss Abernathy, I believe you know who the dead woman is, and I believe she asked you for help." "You don't understand. I had no choice. My father, he was entangled in dark dealings. smuggling, extortion, and Violetta had uncovered the truth. The case took a new turn. The deceased was Violetta Roseman, an undercover agent who had been working alone to expose a forgery ring. We discovered that the ring operated under the guise of an exclusive jewelry club in London. Members exchanged valuable antiques for forgeries, while the originals disappeared. The trail led us, via an informant in the port of Gravesend, to a warehouse where we found forged identities, perfume bottles laced with poison, and a half-finished portrait. Violetta, dressed as a noblewoman. The following day, we lured Clarice with a staged purchase offer for her collection to an upscale hotel. But instead of a buyer, she was met by officers from Scotland Yard. Finally, at the end of a dramatic evening, Lopez exposed Miss Abernathy. She was not the steward's daughter. She was Clarice Legrand, accomplice to the ring that had silenced Violetta. Clarice Legrand, you're under arrest for murder, deception, document forgery, and affiliation with a criminal organization, said Lopez. The woman simply smiled and replied, "It was a lovely game, wasn't it, Detective?" And so ended the case of the Foggy Moor, a game of mirrors, masks, and glass. I believe it won't be the last